You know, I'm often asked what it was like to grow up as a Jew in Scotland. And the reality is, my answer is often, it's pretty similar to growing up as a Jew anywhere, with some differences. The Jewish community of Glasgow, Scotland, where I was born and grew up, has really been around in large measure for about 110 years, and they came from Eastern Europe on their way to the New World, on their way to America. There were, at its peak, during my parents, when my parents were in their 30s and 40s, there were about 15,000 Jews. There are now less than 5,000, or about 5,000, I would say, living in Glasgow, which has always been the only meaningfully sized Jewish community in the country. As a child growing up in Glasgow, I lived, I would say, a very kind of closeted Jewish experience through the age of about 12. All my friends were Jewish. My classmates, because I was at Jewish day school, were all Jewish. My family's life was around Jewish friends. We lived the rhythm of the Jewish calendar in what I would describe as a pretty traditional upbringing, growing up in a kosher home. After I left day school when I was 11 to go to what we call secondary school, I discovered that I was one of 5 Jews in my year, with about 300 other people. There was religious education classes, and I was the Jew in the class, and it, made me realize that I really needed to understand my background and understand my identity so that I could not just be educated about it, but I could have enough knowledge where I could be proud about it so that I could speak about it. I get asked the question an awful lot as well about whether or not, we do things differently as Jews in Scotland, and the reality is we really don't. I remember we had family members, my wife's from the suburbs of Detroit, and her family came over for Passover. I think it was in the late 90s, and they said, wow, Passover Seder is just like it is in America. There are strange little quirks, like growing up in Scotland, we didn't call it a bagel, we called it a beigel. But it's very similar to here, with the one major difference is that growing up in Scotland, the only organized religious Jewish life was Orthodox Jewish life. And it was very eye-opening for me to come to America in 1990 and be opened up to a far more pluralistic society where, first time I walked into a synagogue and heard music playing was very strange for me. The first time I saw a woman rabbi was unusual for me. But very quickly, I embraced that notion of pluralism, that there isn't one form of Judaism, and there really never has been. What brought me to the United States was a job offer at a very young age to be the director of a summer camp, a Jewish summer camp in Wisconsin. I would never have hired myself. They saw something in me that I didn't even know I had in me, but I ran that for 5 years and really set me on my journey in not-for-profit life. People ask me, what do you consider home? So Scotland will always be home. Glasgow will always be home. And that's very much a function of the fact that that's the place where I grew up. That's the place where, a lot of formative experiences, happened to me. But there's something very unique here. I don't know whether it might be the landscape a little bit that reminds me of home. Just going over the Golden Gate Bridge and seeing the hills of Marin County, looks an awful lot like Scotland. I'm not planning to go anywhere and recognize that this will be a tough city to leave.